Welcome to Behind the Fence with Blake Thomas.
Hey everyone, Blake at Vinyl Fence Warehouse here on another episode of the Behind the Fence podcast. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to have our marketing and media manager, Zach, with Spark Biz. We're going to swap spots here, and he's actually going to interview me. So you'll get a lot of the ins and outs of our business and kind of how we've evolved through the years. Zach, I'm going to hand it over to you, man.
All right, let's do it. Get comfortable. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Fence podcast with Zach. This time, this is a special episode. This is our Christmas episode, so it's going to be a little bit Christmas oriented. And we're doing things a little bit different. We're going to have Blake on the other side. We're going to interview Blake, and we're going to find out what it takes to run a fence warehouse, right? So
let's do this, man. Sure, it'll be a long one.
So since this is our Christmas episode, let's start here. What does Christmas look like at the Thomas household? Is there any traditions, like your household? Is there any family traditions, anything that you guys like to get into?
Man, at our house, it's all Christmas everywhere, even before Halloween's over. So yeah, we do have a tradition of always building something for Christmas. Gingerbread house, ornaments. This year, I think we've gotten into painting. So we have some little wood houses that we've painted up and decorated, and just anything that we can do, all together at the table. That's our Christmas tradition for sure.
What about at the warehouse? Do you guys have any like Christmas traditions or anything that you guys do at the warehouse? Does it kind of cross over, or is it just strictly business?
It's mostly business. We do try to have a little bit more fun for Christmas. So definitely have lunch for everybody, play some games out in the warehouse, have cash prizes for some things, just to spread a little bit of the holiday cheer and keep everybody in good spirits and good morale.
But that's something that for you guys, because being in Oklahoma, a lot of fence companies, right, like they kind of shut down during the winter time frame, but you guys are staying open like all throughout the year.
We do, yeah. The weather doesn't really affect us here. Of course, with our indoor facility, we can fabricate fencing year round and not even have to go outside for anything if the weather's too bad. We do supply companies all across the nation. Our weather is not so much affected by that, obviously. So if it's bad here, bad in Texas, bad in New York, there's plenty of other states that use our materials.
So we know that you're Vinyl Fence Warehouse, and that obviously vinyl is one of the top priorities. But a few years ago, you introduced Goliath Multi-Post, right? Which is one of the hottest selling, most durable fences that you got out there right now. And what is it? Is it still Goliath, or what is it that right now is that like hot right now that is in your mind, that like product that you guys or service that you guys are offering that is the hot product right now?
It's definitely the Goliath Multi-Post, but it's definitely the biggest part of the bigger picture of Goliath fence systems. So along with that, all of those products that we have for that are based around the black color. Definitely it's been the hottest selling, item in the industry for quite some time is, people wanting that dark product. So obviously we have the multi-post product, which is extremely versatile, lots of different infill options with that. But we also have our Goliath ornamental line, which is our 4-foot tall rackable steel panel that we have. We also have our Goliath chain link, which is a bigger, heavier duty fence system that's also in a no dig. So we have our drivable posts.
Is it, I hate to interrupt, is it just no dig, or is it also available with like traditional method as well?
So yeah, you can obviously, still dig and set all of your posts for that. They do come a foot longer so that you can drive them though. So drivability on that system right there really increases profitability, for a lot of customers, and also the ease of convenience for homeowners, not having to have all of that equipment, to install such a lower priced fence.
When you think about stepping into that leadership role, what's kind of the first thing that kind of comes to your mind? Like, what are you most excited about going into in 2026?
Really being a little bit more structured. The way things have kind of been, for a long time, we still kind of run things as a small company. So my dad is basically the head owner. Me and Brady have always kind of, been the lower position, or we still answer to that, so it really kind of will cut down, some of the red tape that needs to be done on things, and hopefully we'll be able to move a little bit faster. There's a lot of things that the old school type people are still doing, so hard to let go of. And there's a lot of new technology and, procedures and things like that we can definitely grab hold of, with some fresh people. Happy to have him around. He'll still be back doing a lot of the day-to-day stuff, just on a weekly basis instead of daily. Still really excited to have him here and still run the things on the back end of the business so that we can focus on moving things forward on the front end.
Yeah. And of course, and I like Roger. I love Roger as well. So speaking of Roger, what is the one thing that Roger's kind of taught you about business that, you plan to keep with the company? Something that's instilled in you, that's instilled in the business and Vinyl Fence Warehouse that like you look forward to continuing that going forward with Vinyl Fence Warehouse?
From a very young age, I was always taught, quality over quantity. And so if you can deliver the best quality and at the same time deliver it fast and cost effectively, then you're extremely convenient and there's more value there to be had with your product, even if it's not the cheapest. So, being able to push the more quality items, and in the end, you really kind of end up having to push less of them. Whenever we're sticking to our guns as far as quality over quantity, that's what we have to do here.
Nice. And now to kind of reverse that, what's one thing that you're kind of excited to modernize, or just one area, just one piece of thing, or one piece of software or something that you're excited to implement and kind of going forward?
We're really looking forward to getting into automations with our CRM, still taking some of those tasks off of our salesmen as far as delivering quotes. We've onboarded my salesmen this year to help even take, more of those tasks off of their hands and, let the customer kind of give themselves a budget without even having to actually speak with anybody. One of the things, that obviously eats up a lot of time, and it's obviously necessary talking to customers, but a lot of times, the customer doesn't even want to talk to you. So if we can make it easier for both parties on both ends and get everybody what they need before, actually having a conversation, then it really is just a big time saver for both of us.
So Vinyl Fence Warehouse has grown significantly, right, over the last few years. What is something, or how do you picture it in the next 5 to 10 years? Like what is kind of your vision? And we're not saying long-term goal, but like, let's just go that 5-year goal. Like what do you kind of see Vinyl Fence Warehouse in the next 5 years?
Over the next 5 years, I would like to see, obviously an increase in sales. So we're set up really well here to be able to scale from within. Most companies with their structure and things like that and how they run and operate, they don't have the ability to truly scale. They can grow, they can have more locations, more salespeople, things like that, more fencing crews. But with how we've always operated, we do those things without requiring the additional manpower. So I do hope, that we can grow and expand enough to where we will be needing to hire additional people to do those jobs. But at the same time, we've just made a lot of those jobs more efficient. And we're still looking to, kind of capitalize on that. I have salesmen, that are not at their full capacity for sure. And, so filling them up with jobs and installations and things like that, we'll be able to handle the capacity without actually having to put more money in to grow.
Yeah, and that makes sense. What's something that most people don't know about running a Vinyl Fence Warehouse or a supply, right? Like running the supply side of things versus the install side of things. What's something that most people don't know that you kind of wish that they did know about running a warehouse or supply company?
So your typical installation company, they're dealing with just the end user. They're dealing with the homeowner or, the business. So us here, we have a huge variety of customers, from your homeowner to your HOA president to your contractor, the owner of the business, as well as, corporations. We deal with big box stores. We deal with supply companies. We even deal with NASA, and even U.S. government jobs. So having different sales operations for each one do have such a varied range of customer. So having to deal with each one of those in specific ways, whether it be, delivery needs or billing. So, having the different capabilities to handle each one of those is something that not every fence company I know of does that. Even the corporate stores, they only handle a certain type of customer, or the big box stores, they only handle a certain type. But, us being able to handle all of them, basically all across the United States, is something that, I don't think most people have ever really had to deal with. And so I think it's something very unique to what we have here at Vinyl Fence Warehouse is our large and varied customer base.
Nice. If you could give every fence contractor one gift for Christmas, what would it be? It could be anything.
Geez. A new truck.
A new truck? You know what? I don't think anybody would complain about that.
Yeah,
right?
if I could, pull an Oprah and tell everybody, you got a truck, you got a truck, you got a truck, I would. But really and truly,
before, because I know you got a good answer. What kind of truck would it be?
Man, I would probably lean towards like a new F-250 or F-350. Yeah, something with a big diesel, can haul a lot, super dependable, and have a ton of power.
So that's the Oprah answer. And what was the other answer?
So the practical answer that still couldn't afford, but if I had all the money, absolutely, I would buy everybody a U.S. Hammer. The ability for a company, to change their operation and go from 2-day installs down to 1-day installations on a lot of products that aren't really quite as profitable because of that. If we could put a post pounder in all of the fence companies' hands, I really think it would be an absolute game changer for a lot of companies.
Let me ask you this, kind of a follow-up to that. Let's say I'm a fence company. I just started my fence company. It's my first year in business. I'm getting 3 or 4 customers, 3 or 4 fence installs a month. It's not a huge number. It's just me and, another guy, maybe 2 people, right? You need kind of like 3 people for the standard kind of crew. But it's me and 2 other people. At what point should I start looking at buying a post pounder? Maybe I couldn't afford it to start, but now maybe I'm starting to, it's a year in. How many jobs, what is that scalable, or what is that kind of that measuring stick? How many jobs should I be getting per month before I should consider myself kind of ready to make that leap into getting to a post pounder?
So I don't think it's really a factor of something like that. I think it's more so whenever you realize, that your time is valuable.
Okay.
Simply being that if your time can be spent on selling and meeting customers or advertising your business or doing any of those things instead of actually spending the additional time to the job, on the job, finishing the job, if you can step away from doing all of that, then that's what's going to help you grow and help you actually get across, any kind of threshold that you may have hit. Realizing, hey, I'm not technically making money by being the labor force. I'm making money by being the person that's bringing the money in and selling those jobs. So if you can cut down your time on those installations and transfer it over to doing other things in your business, that is really where the value lies in that. Obviously, with a post pounder, it's a lot less laboring on your back. It is something that there's a learning curve to it, obviously, but that's with anything. So if you can see, past all of those reasons why you don't think you should and go with the reasons that truly make sense on paper, I think that right there is really what's going to make it worth it for you. Yeah, whenever you start seeing all of those positives to it and selling points, then honestly, the sale kind of gets easier. You spend less time doing it, and you'll find yourself, hey, I'm already out of work because I'm doing it so fast. So, I've got to be out there selling more. And yeah, I really think that's, once a company can see those benefits, then it's time to make that change.
What's something that Blake does, whenever you're not running Vinyl Fence Warehouse? What's something you do in your spare time? Kind of, take your mind off work, kind of let loose. What is something you do?
Man, I am always thinking about business. I love spending time with my family, doing anything with them or for them. Right now, I've got a boat project in my shop. I've always wanted to do something with Chevrolet motors. I've always been into racing and race cars. This is kind of along those lines as far as what the project was. Kind of a cross between hot rod and race car, but it's on the water. Something, I'm going to be able to do with my family for years. So, I'm knee deep in that project right now. But, even when I'm out in the shop, building or turning wrenches on anything, I'm always conscious of my business.
You're building a boat, right? How you putting it together, rebuilding? How's it work?
Yeah, so I bought a little bit older boat. It's a 97 Taiga wakeboard boat. It had, some updating that needed done, fresh seats, a new motor, things like that. And, kind of what makes me think of it, like a race car is that race car is something that's usually more fun when it's built. If you can build it from the ground up and make it yours and make it run how you want and handle how you want and everything how you want it, then you just kind of enjoy it and appreciate it more, I think.
Yeah.
So,
built, not bought, right?
Exactly.
Like
I used to be a mini trucker growing up, into airbag suspension and trucks. That's how you and I first got hooked up, man. Yeah, I've always tried to carry a project of some sort, but, I finally kind of got the one that'll probably stick around for a while and, just anything to do with my family, everything. If I'm doing this just for myself, then I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. I try to, do everything so that it pushes me always back to my family.
Got it. So you can't say US Hammer. What's one tool that you can't live without? Like the one tool that you're like, hey, I got to go work today. I got to go install a fence. What's the one tool that you can't live without when it comes to fence installing, not like warehouse management?
So US Hammer aside, I would probably say a Sawzall. Especially whenever we were doing vinyl fence, you're always having to cut that stuff. So a Sawzall with a fine tooth blade, that'll get you through just about anything that you need.
And the last question here. What is the best advice that you'd give to fence newbies or fence noobs that would be kind of new into the industry? They're just starting out. What's the best advice that you could give to them?
Always reinvest in yourself. Do things that push you and your business forward. Probably one of the best quotes that I can think of that really kind of drives that for me is from one of my mentors, Jim Rohn. He's an old school businessman, entrepreneur, but he always says to work harder on yourself than you do at your job. And so whenever you do that, obviously that trickles into your job. So if Blake is 100% at home, that means I can at least be 100% at work too. But, if I can't be a good man and a good person at home, I'm probably not going to be worth much at work. So just always, bettering yourself, like being a runner, staying fit personally, being disciplined, and just really sticking with it. As a new company, same thing. You got to be disciplined. You've got to stay with it, and you never know where it'll take you. I'm sure, obviously, whenever we started this back in 1992, we'd never imagined where we would be today, miles ahead of anything we ever thought possible. But it's because we never quit. We kept going and kept improving and kept making ourselves better.
Yeah. Blake, where can people check out that boat? Where can they find you at on social media?
If you're interested in semi-professional content, you can always find me on Instagram, Blake Thomas Fence Tycoon. You can friend me on Facebook. I'm just a normal guy. We do have a lot of other Facebook pages for products, Vinyl Fence Warehouse, Goliath Fence Systems. Our websites are killer, done by Zach here at Spark Biz. So you can check those out at vinylfencewarehouse.com, goliathfencesystems.com. Our installation side, if anybody's out there needing excellent installation, irontoughvinyl.com or irontoughfence.com. You can email me. I'm Blake at Vinyl Fence Warehouse. You can always reach me direct there.
Yeah, that was a laundry list.
Blake, it's a long one, man.
We appreciate you taking the time to do this. Merry Christmas to you and everybody at your family, the Vinyl Fence Warehouse family. And can't wait to see what's in store for Vinyl Fence Warehouse in the next few years.
Me too, man. Merry Christmas to everybody listening, everybody checking us out. Would like to wish a Merry Christmas, to all of my customers, clients, and friends. We absolutely appreciate everybody's support and continued patronism here. We keep all of this stuff here for your convenience. So, be sure to check us out.
Thank you guys for tuning in to this special holiday episode of Behind the Fence.
And we're out.
Yeah, that's it.